On New Year's Eve, Emily took her daughter, Zoe, to spend the night with her so-called white moonlight, Ryan Kim. The three of them had dinner together, took a photo in front of the fireworks, and posted it on social media like they were a picture perfect family. The likes and comments rolled in. Someone even joked, "Weird, why isn't James Walker saying anything this year? Usually he's blowing up her phone by now." Emily brushed it off and said she'd call me later. But midnight passed and she still hadn't called. Maybe she was waiting for me to ask her to come home again. She didn't know I'd already boarded the train. From now on, no one would be reminding her to come home that morning. She came downstairs like usual, not even noticing I was packing my suitcase. She casually said, "I'm heading to the old house to pick up Zoe. We're going to Ryan's place for New Year's. You don't have to wait for us to eat." That indifferent, rehearsed tone was all too familiar. 2 years ago, I might have reacted. I would have made a scene, accused her of abandoning me on a night that's supposed to be about family. But not this year, maybe because I knew I was finally leaving. I didn't even flinch. "Okay," I said without looking up. She hesitated for a second, surprised by my calm, but said nothing more and left. The sound of the door clicking shut wasn't loud, but it still made me pause. A week earlier, I'd seen Ryan's latest social media post was prepping for the holiday, with decorations and cheesy selfies in front of the window. The comments under it were mostly Emily's friends, gushing about how sweet it was that she'd be spending the holiday with him again. One even wrote, "Emily is so good to you, Ryan." Emily liked the post. Of course she did. It wasn't the first time she ditched me and Zoe to celebrate with him. This year made it 3. I didn't even bother to be mad anymore. Ryan Kim was her white moonlight, the unreachable perfection she romanticized. Even though she married me, even though we went from classmates to husband and wife, I was always just the placeholder. Ever since Ryan came back to the country, Emily changed. I used to argue with her every year when she took Zoe to Ryan's. This time, I didn't say a word. I just left a divorce agreement on the table and booked a train ticket. I figured this time it was really over. The train left at 700 p.m. I was staring at the old family photo, wondering if I should take it with me when my phone rang. It was Zoe. She's 5 now. I answered the video call, and her little face popped up on screen, framed by the back seat of Emily's car, her brows furrowed. As she stared at me, "Dad, are you mad again?" I froze before I could say anything. She added, "Is it 'cause we're spending New Year's with Uncle Ryan? I already told you he's always alone on holidays. You have people all the time." Her words echoed from years ago, the same excuse Emily used, the same logic Zoe had repeated like it was fact. That first year I lost it. We fought. I wanted my family together, and they made me feel like I was the selfish one. Emily didn't even flinch. Zoe stood by her side like I was some unreasonable stranger. I wanted to tell Zoe that I wasn't angry anymore, that her mum could spend every holiday with Ryan if she wanted. "Zoe, I'm not mad," I said quietly. "If it makes you happy, he can celebrate with you every year." She blinked. "You always say the opposite of what you mean." She didn't believe me, not really before I could say more. The camera shifted and landed on Emily. She was behind the wheel, her face sharp under the dim car light. "Is there something you need?" she asked coldly. I shook my head. "No." She hesitated, like she wanted to say something, but the light turned green and she drove off. I hung up. I didn't take the photo with me. I packed my last things, left the keys by the door, and dragged my single suitcase downstairs. 6 years in this city and all I had fit in 126 in case. The cab driver chatted as we waited in traffic. "Going home for the new year?" I said. "Yes, hope it's not too far." He joked, "Or you'll miss dinner." I smiled and lied. It was the only ticket I could get. But the truth was, I hadn't been home since I married Emily. At first it was because Zoe was too young. Then, year after year, she and Emily went to Ryan's place instead. I thought maybe this year would be different. It wasn't. Ryan's post confirmed it, so I stopped waiting. The driver dropped me at the station at 6:30. I checked in, boarded, and watched the city lights flicker past. Fireworks went off in the distance. They were beautiful in a detached sort of way. I used to love this city, used to love Emily. When we first got married, when Zoe was born, things felt whole, but it didn't take long for things to shift. The Liu family, Emily's family, wanted to raise Zoe at their place. I had to call ahead every time I wanted to see my own daughter. The house I built became just another shell. Our conversations died. We slept in the same bed, but we stopped dreaming the same dreams. Zoe always seemed polite, but distant, like she didn't really see me as her dad at first. I blamed our lack of time together, but then I saw how easily she bonded with Ryan, how naturally they laughed and played, and I realized some connections just don't depend on blood. People assume love and loyalty come with titles like husband or father, but they don't. I saw Emily's New Year's post a few minutes ago. Same setup as always, fireworks, matching smiles, cozy dinner. Emily even smiled in that one, rare for her. Zoe looked adorable. Ryan stood tall and confident. It was a perfect photo. The last one I took with them was on Zoe's birthday. A year ago, I was the only one smiling in it. Emily and Zoe said they don't like to smile back. Then I believe them now. I wonder if it was just because I was in the photo. I almost tapped like on Emily's post, but paused. The comments underneath were already rolling in. Some people really thought they were a real family of three. Someone asked, "Didn't James say anything?" Another joked, "Weird he hasn't called yet." Emily replied, "He'll call later." I guess she really thought I'd still call. Like clockwork, even Zoe expected it. She said, "I always called to tell them to come home this year. I didn't, and I won't." I closed the app. The train rattled on, steady and quiet. I thought about how long I'd chased Emily from high school to college. I used to think she was the sun, untouchable. Even after Ryan left for overseas, I never thought I had a chance until the day she turned around and smiled at me like I was more than background noise. Half a year after Ryan left, she was mine. People thought she was settling, said she must have been temporarily blind. I didn't care. I married the girl of my dreams. But reality is cruel. When Ryan came back, it was like I'd been holding a place for him, like the story just hit resume. I was the filler chapter. And now that chapter is over. Midnight hit. Fireworks lit up the night. My phone vibrated. It was Emily. That surprised me. For the past 2 years, this exact hour belonged to Ryan and Zoe. They'd be setting off sparklers, eating sweets, laughing. She never had time to care about me. I hesitated, then answered hello. At first, all I heard was breathing. Then she whispered, "Are you asleep?" Her tone was soft, too soft. I lowered my voice. "No, what's up?" Silence stretched. Then she asked, "It's midnight. Why didn't you call me?" I almost laughed. Didn't want to ruin your mood. That was the truth. She didn't respond for a while. I didn't feel like wasting my breath anymore. "If that's all, I'll hang up." "Wait," she said. "Zoe wants to say Happy New Year." Of course, always through Zoe, Emily never says what she really wants. I said thank you, wished her the same. Her signal crackled, cutting in and out. I was about to hang up when she suddenly called my name. "James, when you come back from your dad's, let's take Zoe to the amusement park." "Okay, the amusement park, that old promise. I wanted to do that years ago, to bond with Zoe," Emily said. "She was too busy," Zoe said. It was childish, but months later, I saw them at that exact park with Ryan. I looked out the train window. "No need," I said. She didn't hear me. Ryan's voice came through the phone. "Emily, come on. Zoe wants to set off fireworks." I knew that voice too well. "Was that James on the phone?" Ryan asked. "Tell him to come home. He must be worried." Zoe wanted egg custard tomorrow, he added casually, his voice syrupy and smug. I hung up. There was no point in listening anymore. She'd figure out what I meant when she got home and saw the empty house. But a small part of me still wondered, what will she feel when she sees I'm gone? Annoyance, regret, or nothing at all? I guess I'll find out soon enough. I saw her calls pile up that night when anyone missed calls, all from Emily, and I didn't answer a single one. I knew exactly what she'd see when she walked through the door. No suitcase, no coat by the hook, no shoes at the entrance, no me, just silence and a divorce agreement with her name on it, signed and left face up on the coffee table. When I finally called back the next morning, she picked up within a second. Her voice was rough, maybe from crying, maybe from yelling at someone. I didn't care. James, where the hell are you? I leaned back on the porch at my dad's place and looked out at the familiar stretch of road I used to bike down as a kid. I went home, I said simply. When are you coming back? She asked. That's what threw me, like none of this had happened. Like we were still playing house. I'm not, I told her. Emily, I'm not coming back. I left you the papers. Sign them. Let's end this clean. She didn't speak for a second, and I could hear her breathing unevenly, like she was trying to process it. And what, James? What the hell are you talking about? We're fine. That word fine tasted like rust in my mouth. She really believed that I sighed long and bitter. Emily, I said quietly, when was the last time we were fine? She went quiet again. I could practically hear her mind flipping through memories, probably pulling up the ones where we smiled for cameras or made small talk at family dinners, the ones where we played pretend. Why? She finally asked. Why now? And for once I told the truth. Because I'm tired. Because I don't want to be in a marriage where I'm always the afterthought. Because I don't care about you and Ryan Kim and your perfect little fireworks pictures anymore. I just want out. She cut in sharply, voice shaking. I've told you 100 times, there's nothing between Ryan and me. I don't care. I said, I'm not asking anymore. There was a long pause, and I could almost picture her sitting alone in the house, staring at the paper I left behind, still trying to convince herself this was temporary. I told her not to call me until she signed the papers, then hung up. I couldn't sleep after that. Got out of bed and wandered into the kitchen, only to find my dad still awake, quietly chopping scallions and boiling noodles. You're up late, I said. He glanced at me over his shoulder. Made you some egg noodles. You used to love them. He placed a bowl in front of me with that same quiet care he always had, and I sat down, suddenly feeling like I was 10 years old again. The steam blurred my vision. Or maybe that was just everything finally catching up to me. My dad had always told me not to marry someone who looked down on me, not because of pride, but because love shouldn't feel like you're begging. I didn't listen. I chased after Emily like a moth to a damn flame, thinking I'd be the one to change her heart. But hearts don't change, not really. The next morning, my dad opened his little street store while I slept, and the sun was already shining by the time I stepped outside the 5th day of the new year, and the town looked like something out of a vintage postcard. Sunlight spilling over cobblestone roads, faint chatter from open windows, kids running around in jackets too big for them. I took a deep breath, felt something settle in my chest for the first time in years. Dad, I called, walking toward the shop. But before he could answer, 2 familiar figures turned around. Zoe saw me first. Daddy, she screamed and came running full force. I was frozen in place, arms instinctively catching her as she threw herself at me. Her tiny arms wrapped tight around my neck, and I stared at her in shock. Emily followed, a faint smile on her lips. Like none of this was strange, James. I didn't answer. My heartbeat was hammering, but not with joy, more like confusion and dread. What were they doing here? What are you doing here? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Emily's hand gently squeezed Mine, I'm sorry, James. There were too many guests at home. I couldn't leave earlier. And just like that, my dad appeared with a fruit plate like nothing was wrong. Come, come. He said to them, like he'd already known they were coming. I don't know how. She managed to charm my dad in one night, but there he was, offering her snacks and smiling. Like he'd forgotten how cold she'd always been to me. Zoe, come give Grandpa a hug. He beamed. Here's your New Year red envelope. Zoe giggled sweetly and ran into his arms. All sunshine and innocence. Watching them made me sick and warm at the same time. Emily had brought her a game, playing the devoted wife and doing mum, like we hadn't spent the past few years in a silent, slow-motion breakup. I knew why she came. She thought I was just throwing a fit. She figured if she brought Zoe and smiled at my dad, I'd fold. But the truth is, I wasn't angry anymore. I was empty, and that's worse. That night she stood behind me while I boiled water. James, she said gently, I drove 5 hours last night. I'm exhausted. My dad overheard and immediately rushed in to suggest they both rest at the house. Emily looked like she wanted to collapse into my arms, but I kept my distance. I took them home because I didn't want to argue in front of my dad, but my silence wasn't forgiveness, it was indifference. After we got inside, I asked Zoe to go to her room, and I turned to Emily. What do you want, Emily? She stared at me like I was the crazy one. What do you mean? You always said Zoe should meet her grandfather. I'm doing what you wanted. I laughed, a hollow, bitter laugh. I said that for years you ignored me, until now. Her lips tightened. James, don't look at me like that. I'm serious. But I couldn't see her sincerity anymore. It was like a fog I'd walked through. For years had finally lifted. For the next 2 days, Emily played the role of perfect daughter-in-law, helping my dad in the kitchen, taking walks around town, always sticking close to me, but never quite bridging the distance. Zoe warmed up to my dad, and it made him happier than I'd seen him in years. But I noticed something else too. Whenever Zoe was out of earshot, Emily looked like she wanted to say something, but couldn't. On the 3rd night, I overheard a conversation I wasn't supposed to. Here's Zoe, throwing a tantrum. I want to go home. I don't like it here. Grandpa's toys are boring. I miss Uncle Ryan. I want to go to the amusement park with him. Emily hushed her quickly, whispering, just wait. When your dad isn't upset anymore, we'll go home. Just behave, okay? Zoe grumbled, but agreed. An eye on the other side of the wall stood frozen. So that was it. I wasn't a father. I was an obstacle. I didn't confront them. Not yet. My dad suggested we go for a walk around town, take Reboen and Zoe. He said, using her old nickname, like he still believed this was salvageable. Emily smiled brightly at the suggestion. Zoe, we're going to see where your dad grew up, she chirped. We walked across the cobbled roads, the air crisp and sweet. Zoe darted ahead like she didn't just say she hated it here. Emily tried to make conversation. James, you never told me about your childhood. I stared at her. I did. You just never listened. She looked down at her feet. Let's come here every year, she said softly. Like that would fix anything. I didn't respond. And just then, Zoe's voice rang out from up ahead. Uncle Ryan. My blood went cold. I looked up, and there he was, Ryan Kim, arms wide open, like he belonged here, like this wasn't my town, my family, my walk. Zoe ran to him. Instinctively, Emily's expression changed instantly. She looked at me, waiting for a reaction I gave her. None. Ryan smiled, like this was all part of his plan. Mr. Walker, he said smoothly, what a coincidence. He mentioned that New Year's Eve's phone call, like it was an inside joke. Sorry for interrupting again, he added, voice full of fake humility. Zoe clung to his side, and he suggested they take a group photo on the bridge. Emily, take one of me and Zoe. He. No, I said flatly, I don't like photos. Her face fell, and something behind her eyes cracked, but she didn't argue that night. She knocked on my door. James, I didn't invite him here, I swear. I looked her dead in the eyes. I know I called him Her face twisted in confusion. Why would you? So you could see exactly what I've been seeing all these years. I interrupted so you could feel what it's like to be the outsider in your own life. Her mouth opened but no words came out. You want everything. Emily, Ryan, Zoe, me, but you can't have it all. Not anymore. I turned away. She said nothing. She just stood there, quiet, and that's how I knew part 3 was coming, because she wasn't ready to walk away. But I already had. The next morning, I barely made it downstairs before my dad stopped me with a hopeful look on his face and a subtle nudge toward Emily and Zoe, who were already sitting at the breakfast table like they belonged. My dad tried to act casual, but I could see it written all over him. Wanted things to go back to the way they were, or maybe the way he imagined they had been. Emily passed me a bowl of soup without a word. Just a small smile like yesterday never happened. Zoe looked up at me with innocent eyes, as if she didn't tell her mum last night that she missed Ryan and wanted to go back. I took the soup, said nothing, and sat down. My dad, oblivious to the tension, started chatting about taking a walk to the temple later or visiting the lakeside town nearby. It'll be good for Zoe, he said. Emily jumped in immediately. That sounds lovely, right? Zoe nodded, barely glancing at me. And I knew right then I was just an extra in my own house. Again, later that day, Emily cornered me in the hallway while Zoe played with a box of random toys my dad had pulled from who knows where. James, I know you're angry, she began, but I cut her off. You're not here for me. You never were. You brought Zoe because you think she's some kind of leash around my neck. She looked stunned, like she hadn't expected me to say it out loud. That's not true, she whispered. But even she didn't sound convinced then. What is true, Emily? That I'm supposed to be grateful you finally remembered. Zoe has a grandfather, that you suddenly care now that I left. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, and for a moment I thought she might actually walk away, but she didn't. She stayed, and that was the worst part, because it meant she hadn't given up yet. That night I couldn't sleep. I got up to get some air and heard voices coming from Zoe's room, her and Emily. I stopped just outside the door. Mom, when are we going home? Zoe, wed. This place is boring. Grandpa's toys are weird. I want to go to the amusement park with Uncle Ryan. Emily sighed. Soon, baby, we'll go home when your dad's not mad anymore. But for now, we need to be good, okay? Do I have to pretend to like it here? Zoe asked. Just a little, Emily said softly. Just for a little longer. I stepped away before they noticed me, but the words stuck like gum on the bottom of my shoe. Pretend to like it here. Pretend to be good. Pretend we're a family. The next morning, my dad insisted we all take a trip through the town's market. Said it'd be good for nostalgia, or whatever. Emily agreed. Again, like she was starring in some cheesy redemption arc, Zoe ran ahead while I trailed behind them both, wondering if I was the only one who realized this whole thing was fake. Emily tried to make small talk. James, remember when you used to run across this bridge as a kid? Yeah, I muttered, not in the mood. You never told me about your childhood. She said again, like that would spark some kind of bonding moment. I did. I replied, you just weren't listening. Her smile faltered, then she said, if most ironic thing I'd heard in years, let's come back here every year as a family. I didn't answer, and I didn't have to, because that's when we heard Zoe scream from up ahead. Uncle Ryan. I didn't even look up. I already knew Ryan Kim, like he'd been summoned by some invisible scriptwriter, desperate for a plot twist there. He was standing at the edge of the market with his designer jacket and that smug to handsome face. Zoe ran to him like she'd seen Santa. Emily froze, her eyes darted to me, panic flickering. Just below the surface, Ryan acted cool, of course. What a coincidence, he said, that fake smile glued to his face. Didn't expect to run into you guys here. Yeah, in a town with a population smaller than a high school gym. Sure, total coincidence. He turned to Zoe lifted her in his arms and spun her around like he was her dad. I felt something inside me twist, but I kept it buried. Ryan suggested they take a photo him, Zoe and Emily, on the bridge. James, he added, with that extra touch of fake humility. Would you mind taking the picture? Emily looked like she wanted to vanish. I didn't even blink. Sure, I said. I held the phone, focused the lens. And when I looked through the screen, I saw what everyone else probably saw to a beautiful woman, a sweet little girl, and a man who looked like he belonged. Just before I snapped it, Emily turned to me. Wait, she said suddenly. James, let's take one as a family too. I handed the phone back. I don't like photos. The air shifted. Ryan smirked. Emily's face dropped. That night she came to my room again. No knocking, no permission. I didn't ask Ryan to come, she said. You really think I don't know that? I replied, staring her down. You think? I don't know how carefully you planned this trip to make me reconsider. Zoe needs both her parents, she argued. Zoe needs a stable home. She already has one. I shot back with Ryan. Clearly, that's who she wants. Clearly, that's who you want too. Her voice cracked. I never wanted to divorce you, James. Well, I do, I said coldly, and I'm done waiting for you to admit that this thing between you and Ryan isn't innocent. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was, or maybe she was. And maybe that's why neither of us saw part 4 coming, because sometimes you live with someone so long you forget they're capable of burning everything down just to keep pretending the house is still standing. The next morning, the air in the house was thick with something neither of us dared to name, like the silence after a storm. That didn't quite destroy everything, but made sure nothing would ever be the same. I sat at the kitchen table watching Zoe eat a bowl of instant oatmeal with zero interest, her feet swinging off the edge of the chair, while Emily stood by the window, pretending to check the weather. My dad had gone out early to pick up supplies for the shop, still unaware that the family under his roof was a glass sculpture mid-crack. I didn't say anything until Emily broke the silence. Zoe wants to go play near the lake, she said. She asked if Ryan could take her. The audacity didn't even sting anymore. Let him, I said, sipping my coffee. She hesitated, then added, she wants me to go. To go, I replied flatly. Not even looking up. Emily didn't argue. She got Zoe ready, and 10 minutes later the front door closed behind them. I didn't follow, I didn't peek, I didn't care. At least that's what I told myself. I stayed inside, letting the quiet settle like dust on my skin. I thought they'd be gone for hours, maybe all day, lost in that perfect little world Ryan always seemed so eager to create, but not even an hour had passed before I heard the sound of the front gate slam open and Zoe's sobs breaking the peace like shattered glass. I opened the door to see her red-faced and wailing, Emily storming in right behind her, face pale and eyes blazing. What happened? I asked, already dreading the answer. Don't talk to me. Zoe shrieked and shoved my hand away. I was stunned. Zoe, Emily barked, grabbing her arm. That's enough. The way she scolded her was sharp, unfiltered, almost panicked. I could tell something real had snapped out there, something that even Ryan's polished presence couldn't smooth over. I turned to Emily. What the hell happened? She didn't speak. She was still breathing heavy, her chest rising and falling like she'd just run a marathon. I turned to Zoe, but she just crossed her arms and looked away, muttering, I hate you, I don't want you, I like Uncle Ryan more, he's better than you. Her words hit like a slap I never saw coming. For a second I was frozen. I wasn't even angry, I was just numb, not because I didn't expect it, but because hearing it aloud finally made it real. I crouched to her level, looked her dead in the eyes, and said, you know what, Zoe, I don't like you much either. Emily gasped. Zoe's face crumpled, stunned by my bluntness. I stood up, walked away, and didn't look back. I heard Emily whispered something sharp under her breath as she pulled Zoe into the guest room. The door slammed, and still I felt nothing. It wasn't until later, when Emily came out alone, her eyes read her voice, soft but controlled, that I finally looked her way. She doesn't mean it, she said. She's just upset, confused. No, she meant it, I replied. And she's not confused, she's learned exactly how to play both sides. James, what do you want me to say, Emily? That I'll keep pretending this is normal? That I'll keep fighting for a kid who only sees me as a nuisance and a woman? Who only turns to me when everything else falls apart? Her hands trembled. I brought her here because I thought we could fix this. You brought her here to control the narrative, just like you always do. You're her father, am I? I shot back because, from where I'm standing, Ryan's got that role down better than I ever did, and honestly, I think she'd be happier if he were. Emily's jaw clenched. Don't say that. Why not? Isn't that what you've always wanted, for Ryan to come back and pick up where you two left off? That's not fair. No, what's not fair is me sitting at home every year while you and our daughter go play pretend family with your ex. We were friends, you were lovers. Don't insult both of us. That shut her up. She looked at me like she didn't even recognize who I was. Maybe I didn't either. I'm not signing those papers, she said suddenly. I never agreed to any of this. You don't have to agree, I told her. You just have to accept it. And Zoe, you'll